Maurice Bay here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is the place to help creative entrepreneurs with the ideas, the inspiration, the motivation, the guidance, and direction that you guys need to launch, grow, and promote your creative businesses online. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you the truth about getting started from scratch here on YouTube, or growing your social media following, or growing an online business and starting from nothing in 2020. Because the truth of the matter is, it's difficult. And the reason it's difficult mainly is because when we're new to those things, we don't have an audience, which means when we post something or when we upload something, typically nobody's listening. And the journey of going from no audience online to gathering an interested audience online can be emotionally tough if you don't have your head screwed on correctly. Now, the channel that you're watching this video on right now, this is my second channel. I started another channel a while back, and over the years of running that channel and uploading content, I learned a lot of stuff and I made a lot of mistakes. And there's a lot of videos that you can go and look at on YouTube that will help you out with what you need to be thinking about and what you need to be focused on when you're growing your YouTube channel from scratch. And so in this video, I wanted to give you some things that you need to be thinking about when you're growing your YouTube channel, especially as a creative entrepreneur. But I don't want to cover the typical stuff. I don't want to cover keyword research or having a consistent upload schedule or having really nice, enticing thumbnails, because you can look at any of the videos on YouTube and find out more about those things. I wanted to share with you some things that in hindsight, I realized that I was doing or that I had going on emotionally as I was building my first channel. Some things that I realized looking back on now that was absolutely slowing the growth down of that channel, and it will absolutely slow the growth down of your channel, especially if you're looking to get started here from scratch as a beginner in 2020 with all of the noise that is here on YouTube and online. So here are the 4 things I'm gonna go over with you. Let's dive right in. The first thing I wanna share with you is, as a creative entrepreneur, when you're building online, when you're building here on YouTube, at times it's going to feel like you're driving a car in the dark. And the only thing that you can see is what your headlights are lighting up. Now, I want you to imagine that just for 1 second. Imagine you're on a really, really dark road and all you can see is what your headlights are lighting up. Now, there's a lot of things out there in front of you and beside you that you can't see. There are a lot of dark areas. There are a lot of areas that are not illuminated. There are a lot of things out there surrounding you that you are not sure about. But you're really not focused on those things when you're driving your car in the dark. You're only focused on the area of the road that you can see. You're only focused on what's being lit up. And when you're building a business online, or you're growing a social media following, or growing a YouTube channel from nothing, it's going to feel the same way, except a lot of the times you're going to find yourself not focusing on what you can see, but focusing on what you can't see. You're going to find yourself a lot of the times focusing on the dark areas. In other words, there's going to be a lot of things that you're unsure about when you're growing online, and you're going to find yourself a lot of the times focusing in the areas that you are unsure of. But if you can truly see it as you're driving in the dark, then the truth is you don't need to see all of the things that you can't see. You don't need to be focused on what you're unsure about. You only need to be sure about the next step. You only need to see the next step. I know for me, a lot of the times when I was creating content on that channel, I would know the next video to create. I would know the next video or 2 videos to create. You, in building your online business, you may know the next thing or the next 2 things that you need to do. But when you find yourself focusing out in the dark, or trying to focus too far out ahead, you're going to start to feel unsure. And the reason is because you're focusing in an area that you may not need to be focused on. All you need to be focused on when you're building online as a beginner is the next step. And if all you know to do is take the next step, then just like driving your car in the dark, even though you can't see 200 feet ahead of you, you can only see 100 feet ahead of you. Once you drive that 100 feet, then the next 100 feet will be revealed to you. And so it's going to feel like you're driving through the dark a lot of the times, but all you need to focus on is what you can see. You don't need to be concerned about what you're unsure about, and you don't need to be concerned about all of the dark areas that you can't see. Point number 2 that I want to share with you is it's best not to try to go at it alone. If you're building from nothing and you're trying to get your online business going, or your YouTube channel going, or your social media following going, it's best to elicit the support of a community. So going back to the example of driving through the dark and all you have is your headlights, well, having the support of a community it's gonna feel like you're driving through the dark with nothing more than your headlights. But maybe 50 or 100 feet ahead of you, there's another person with his headlights on. And maybe 50 or 100 feet behind you, there's another person with his headlights on. And maybe beside you, there's another person with his headlights on. And that person may even be passing you, or you may be passing them, but it won't matter. All of you guys will be riding together with your headlights on. And the same type of security that you would feel when you were driving on a really dark road, if you were with a group of your friends, is the same type of security that you will feel when you're building online and growing from nothing when you have the support of a community. A community can offer you encouragement, and a community can also hold you accountable. Running a YouTube channel or growing your business online is not like having a job. When you're at a job, someone is always telling you what to do and holding you accountable for what you're expected to do. But when you're building online or building a YouTube channel or growing a business or growing a social media following, no one is holding you accountable for what you should be doing unless you have the support of a group. Now, for everybody, this is not a problem. Some people are great at holding themselves accountable. But a lot of us, when we are being held accountable, we're operating in a better space. And so find you a community of like-minded people. If you're doing anything online, growing a business or growing a social media following or a YouTube channel, it's likely that you are what I would call a unicorn, which means that you're probably one of the only people in your immediate world that is doing what you're doing. And this is another reason why you need the support of a community. Because if you are that unicorn, then you've got nobody to celebrate your wins with. And you also have nobody to learn with when you lose. And so find a community of like-minded or at least similar-minded individuals for you to go on this journey with. You'll feel a lot more secure, you'll feel a lot more supported, and you'll feel a lot more encouraged and motivated to see this through to the end. Point number 3 I want to go into real quick is go for no. This is something that I definitely wasn't thinking about in the initial stages of growing my first YouTube channel. Here's what go for no means. Let's just say you and I are both salespeople and we both have the same objective, to sell 30 units within a month. Both of us essentially are seeking to sell 1 unit per day, but we both have different philosophies. So my philosophy is to go out and hear 1 yes per day, to sell 1 unit per day. And so when I go out and I do a presentation and I don't sell it, I'm a little bit disappointed. So I do a second presentation, and if I don't sell it, I'm a little bit more disappointed. And so if I do a third presentation and finally I sell it, now I'm happy, now I can go home. But what happens if I go out and I sell my first presentation? Meaning I hear my 1 yes on my first presentation. If I'm really, really motivated, I may go on to do the second and the third presentation. But because I've already heard my 1 yes, my emotions have changed. Heck, if I'm tired, I may even go home after hearing that first yes on the first presentation. And then there's you. Your philosophy is not to hear 1 yes per day. Your philosophy is to hear 5 no's per day because you want to work the numbers. So you want to sell, but you're actually looking for the no. You're going for 5 no's per day. So what happens to you emotionally when you go out and do your first presentation and you don't sell it? You're happy because you're 1 step closer to getting those 5 no's. You only need 4 more. You do the second presentation, you hear another no. You're that much happier now because you're that much closer. You only need 3 no's to get to your eventual goal. Now, if the averages say 3 shows for 1 sale and your goal is to hear 5 no's, then your likelihood of reaching a sale within that 5 no's is through the roof. But let's dig a little bit deeper. What happens if you go out and you experience success? You sell your first presentation. You hear a yes on your first presentation. Your emotions haven't changed. You're actually still seeking to get 5 no's. So you're in hustle mode to do the next presentation because you're no closer to reaching your goal, even though your first presentation that you did was a sale. And so the point that I'm making with go for no is it is a mindset that will keep us as creators online. It'll keep us in action mode as opposed to results mode. So when you're building from nothing, you can be focused on results, But when you're putting in the actions and you're focusing on results and you're looking at the results and not seeing the results that you want, you can feel discouraged from actually taking the actions. And so the trick, the key, as far as I'm concerned, the guaranteed way to fail your way to success is going for no. Keeping yourself in a mindset where you can stay focused on the actions as opposed to focused on the result. And the fourth thing that I was not thinking about as I was growing my initial YouTube channel that was slowing down my growth, I know it was, and this is big for anyone that is looking to get started from scratch on YouTube or growing their online business, is I wasn't seeking to serve. Essentially what I mean is I was creating the content that I wanted to create, as opposed to creating the content that my audience wanted to see. I wasn't seeking to serve. Think of it as going fishing. Now, one of my favorite foods happens to be pizza. But if I was going fishing tomorrow, I wouldn't bait the hook with pizza, because pizza is what I like. I would be thinking about what the fish wants. And so a mistake that I made as I was initially growing my YouTube channel, my first one, is I wasn't thinking about my audience. I was serving them what I thought they needed. I was serving them what I wanted to serve them. I was producing the content that I wanted to produce, as opposed to producing the content that they wanted to see. I wasn't thinking enough about them. And so if we treat it like we're fishing, then whenever we produce a piece of content, whenever we put out anything online, we will be thinking about our audience first. We will be thinking about the viewer or the reader or who we're trying to serve first. And when we're producing content with a seeking to serve mentality, to me, that is the most attractive thing that we can do to reach our ideal audience member or our ideal clients online in 2020. So what do you think? What do you see as some things that will stifle a person's audience growth online? Because that's essentially what we're talking about when we're talking about building online, growing a YouTube channel, growing a social media following. We're talking about gathering an audience. Drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Now, if you're a creative entrepreneur looking to get started growing your business online, I've got some really helpful content coming down the pike with you specifically in mind. So consider subscribing so you can stay connected to the channel. You can always unsubscribe later on if you choose to.
Closed mouths don't get fed on this boulevard.